Happy Mercury Day, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Star Watch, which is a weekly astrological transit report for Wednesday, October 5th. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Jane. I'm so happy to have everyone here as we talk about the exciting week that we have in front of us. Now, we do have a couple of notable events happening this week, which is good because it kind of gets us something to really look forward to. So this week, three of the main things, we've got Pluto stationing direct, we have a full moon in Aries, and we have Mercury coming into Libra. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening today, and then we'll move into Pluto, okay? So as of today, October 5th, we have the sun starting to come into, well, it's actually technically in opposition here with Chiron. Now the full moon, which is happening on October 9th, is going to have Chiron energy, okay? Because the full moon is happening at 16 degrees of Aries, and now we can see Chiron at 14 degrees of Aries. So it's very, very close. Now Chiron, as we know, is a planet of suffering and pain, but not just those things, but rather it's to expose those things for the sake of healing. All right, Chiron often brings us into greater levels of completion and wholeness by integrating a lot of our pain and traumas and woundings. He doesn't want us to stay broken, quote unquote. He doesn't want us to stay in those places. He does want us to grow and evolve and to develop strength because of those painful experiences that we've had in life. So as we build our way up, now as of today too, we have the moon over here conjunct Saturn. The moon will be making its way into Pisces tomorrow, early tomorrow. And then we'll be coming into a conjunction with Neptune and then Jupiter and then Chiron over the next several days. So the moon is going to be very active, and we may experience some fluctuation in our energy levels. Some of us may need a little bit more sleep than normal, especially when the moon is in Pisces. It's always a good idea to rest, especially not only in Pisces, but especially when the moon comes into that conjunction with Neptune. So please let yourself rest a little bit more if you need it. Now, not everyone will, but if you do feel like you're dragging a little bit and your brain is sort of turning off or disconnecting or detaching from things, it's probably a good idea to bring it on in home, right? Bring it on into yourself and allow yourself to reset and recharge a little bit as much as you can. I know we all lead busy lives. A lot of people have children. They have things they need to do at work and errands to run, but maybe making an extra couple of hours a day, if possible, for yourself, that would be ideal. Because Chiron can bring out opportunities to access aspects of ourselves that are needing attention and needing love. But if we're too busy with life, then we can sort of surpass this opportunity and not truly harness it. And sometimes things can go unnoticed, or they can drag on a little bit longer than they should. I think between now and March of next year. Now, why March? Okay, the big highlight is on March of next year, because that's when Pluto comes into Aquarius for the first time in 248 years. And that's when Saturn is also moving into Pisces. So we are having huge shifts in March of next year. It's also going to be around the time when Jupiter is coming into that conjunction with Chiron as well. So there is going to be some movement with that too. So between now and March, if we can, and this is a great full moon to do that, really starting today, if we can allow ourselves to feel the unhealed aspects of ourselves, that would be a good idea. Because if we can release and forgive and let go and move on from certain things, then this new chapter is going to be free from baggage. Okay, it's going to be really, really hard to truly launch. Now, with Aquarian energy, I know I'm getting really ahead of myself, but this moon is happening, and Pluto is going direct now. So a lot of this energy is starting to tie in. This is going to be like a saga. Okay. This is going to be month after month after month after month, week after week. I'm going to talk about this because Aquarius is an air element. It's about pushing boundaries. It's about reform and change and evolution. Really, though, we want to keep the good things that work, though, with Aquarius. Okay, it is still ruled by Saturn after all. So there's an element of structure. So we're going to still need to maintain structure. But when it comes to structure, we need to select which structures are firm and sturdy so that we can build upon those things and allow the unstable structures to fall and crumble. Okay, because there's a lot of good in our lives. There's a lot of good with our healing work. There's a lot of good with the lessons that we've learned. And those are the things that need to be retained and preserved. And if we can preserve those good things and let the unstable come crashing down, then we can build higher and higher and higher and higher. And Pluto creates immense desire. All right, so the immense desire to do that will be present. Okay, we are going to want to push our boundaries. Where I think Pluto through Capricorn really came out as a very controlling energy. We saw that in our relationships. We saw that in how we lived our lives, our own desire to try to control outcomes. Now that's going to kind of go by the wayside. And I think all the times that you were trying to control something that really was not in your purview, it really wasn't up to you to try to control it. This is a time to forgive yourself and all the other people that were involved in those particular situations. So you can move on and you can build a bigger and better and a happier life over the next 20 years before Pluto moves into Pisces in 2044. So as we build up to this moon, please take the time to really listen to your body, right? The moon is deeply rooted with our body's energies. It's why our intuition is so important, because our intuition speaks to us often in physical capacities. We can have certain energy centers accentuated. If we're nervous, maybe our solar plexus is a little overactive and whatnot. So paying attention to those energy centers, paying attention to how our bodies are communicating to us over the next couple days will be highly beneficial. It's in the air, right? I think we can all tell that things are changing and things are evolving, and we're all ready for it. I think we're ready for the growth. We're ready for the prosperity. We are ready for the changes that are necessary, and we're finally ready to actually start implementing those things. But in order to do so, we want to do so in the least hindered way possible, right? Like, we're not trying to drag bricks through mud here, right? We think it's a lot easier to put those bricks on some wheels and wheel them to your destination rather than trying to haul it all on your shoulder and drag it against the ground. Okay, so we're trying to find easier ways to move forward with our lives. Now, this moon, I don't know that it's going to be like this huge, powerful moon the way that the eclipses are going to be coming into Scorpio season, specifically that full moon eclipse, which is happening on November 8th, which I think is also election day, if I'm remembering correctly. That's going to be a very interesting election coming up here in the United States. So, while it may not be huge and really eventful, it has its subtle power. It has subtle effects. But those that pay attention to the intricacies and the precision of the energy that's at play in their lives right now, those are the ones that are going to find greater heights of freedom. Okay? So let me actually just fast forward the clock. So Pluto goes direct. There's the full moon, 16 degrees. It's actually 16 degrees, 32 minutes. So we can see that right here. Here's Chiron. Here's Venus. Venus is absolutely involved with this as well. We can see Venus is actually in opposition with Chiron at this particular moment in time. And so the Venusian theme, so that could be, your financial situation, but more likely it has to do with certain relationships in your life, and maybe past relationships, because Chiron is often linked to the past because it's about the things that happened to us, right? The things that happened to us that caused us to have wounds, that causes us to make the same mistakes and go through the same patterns over and over again in our present life. So going back to the origin, and likely interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships especially, but any other kind of partnership where there was any sort of shared resources or any sort of contractual agreements, all those kinds of things are at play for healing right now. Venus actually providing a nice stabilization effect, because remember, she's in rulership right now. She's a lot stronger than the sun, and she's actually a lot stronger than the moon as well. The moon on this day is scoring at a -5. This is why it's not like the most powerful moon, it's just kind of gonna happen and then we'll move on. And the sun is also very weak because it's in its fall position. It will have just come in contact with it's actually starting to make its way off of the conjunction, or excuse me, the opposition with Chiron. So the sun and moon, just generally speaking, are not that strong. But then we have Venus scoring at a +5, which is a much, much higher score than the moon at -5 and the sun at -9. So Venus comes in and it's kind of her realm. We are in her domicile here after all. Now, I often talk about how I picture the domiciles, right? I've talked about the Aries domicile being, or rather Mars domicile being, red and fiery and volcanic. And then Taurus is all this beautiful garden, and it's all like lush and lovely with marble and crystal, and it's indoor, outdoor beauty, And then we have all the domiciles in between. With the Libran domicile, I always picture being this like incredibly contemporary art gallery. That's just me. It's like, high fashion, high art, like the cream of the crop of beauty and elegance and talent and just all the wonderful things. And so there's kind of like a hush hush, like when you're in those big art galleries, you kind of have to talk quietly because it's also echoey there. But it is also extraordinarily beautiful, and the design is impeccable, but yet there's still like a hardiness to it. And there's a nice balance between contemporary, kind of cold concrete, but then there's also the beautiful art on the wall. So you have the balance of that as well. So here she is just sort of in her domicile saying, you have to play by my rules, which means this has to balance out. We have to find rectification for these things. We have to find a way to make this particular aspect of your life not be a problem anymore. Okay, she's helping to bring things into an equilibrium so you can launch, as Pluto moves into Aquarius, this new era. You can launch this new era with confidence and without baggage, like I said. Okay, so we love it when a planet is in their domicile. We also have Mercury finishing out his transit in Virgo as well. Now, he's going to be entering in on the 10th, which is the day after the full moon. So let me just sort of click there. So there he is, almost about ready to enter in. We have, again, Venus and the sun are going to be coming conjunct all month up until like the 22nd, 23rd of October when they move into Scorpio. Venus will be kind of moving a lot faster than the sun at that point, and moving beyond the sun. Mercury coming in here to Libra, also affording us that opportunity to have high quality conversations, high quality exchanges with people. There is this element of how do we make this situation something where we can all benefit? Libra is not about compromise, because compromise suggests that two people have to give something up in order to meet in the middle. But this is about how do we find a win-win? How do I make it so that I am not at a loss? And how do we make it so you are not at a loss? And it's about being at that negotiation table for as long as necessary until both parties are absolutely satisfied before coming into any kind of a legal contractual agreement. All right. So if you're dealing with anybody right now, please do not bend. All right. One of the reasons why the sun, if you really think about the sun's exaltation in Aries and the fall in Libra, right? Because the sun is exalted in Aries because it has to do with the self, and it has to do with your own soul's ambitions and what you want from your life and your identity. And it's all about you in Aries. But in Libra, it's about you and another person. It's not just about them. It's about both of you together. And so that sun, you-ness, that uniqueness, one of a kindness that is you, has to now learn how to integrate someone else's you-ness, right? Because they have a you and you have a you, right? Or a me, or whatever you want to say. They are they and you are you. And how do those two things really come together? Well, when the sun is there, you have to find a way to integrate without losing yourself. There is a strong boundary there between, like, I'm happy to accommodate you and I'm happy to work with you and I'm happy to be in a relationship with you, but it cannot come at the expense of myself. Right? So that's one of the reasons why the sun is very weak here, because it can't just be all about itself. But it may be weak in terms of, exaltation and fall or whatever, but it can also keep you grounded within yourself and unbending when it comes to your own desires and needs, which can be good because then you're not self-sacrificing to a point where you're unhappy. Right? So Mercury coming in helps with the negotiation. It does help facilitate communication. I actually really like a Mercury in Libra. He does come down and score though, he's not like a super strong influence in our lives here, but he helps facilitate the exchange, which is great. Okay. Next week, we'll talk a little bit more about this moon, because this moon here, now this is not like a new moon or anything, it's just transiting, but it is going to start preparing us for the full moon, which will happen on November 8th. All right, so we're going to probably start seeing some themes of the eclipse around October 11th. We're going to start seeing some themes coming through that has a lot to do with what's coming up a month later. So just kind of keep your mind open for that. Okay. We also have Mars coming into that exact square with Neptune as well. Now remember, Mars is moving really, really, really slow right now. Let me see. For some reason, I feel like it says really slow. I can't remember if it does or not. But I feel like on these sheets, like if it's moving really slow, it's moving super, super slow. It's happening in the Uranian decan as well of Gemini, or the Aquarian decan of Gemini. So there is a lot of reconsideration of what structures are sturdy enough to be built upon and what structures are not sturdy enough to even make it worth it trying to conserve it or trying to preserve those structures, right? So we're kind of in that modality of reconsidering certain aspects of our lives, and we're making precise and well thought out and well-intentioned decisions right now. And with Mars in a square with Neptune, there is always going to be that component of dream bigger. Like think of the biggest thing that you can possibly think of and then go bigger from that. Because we want to set our sights as high as we possibly can so that we can attain more than we can conceive of at this time. Okay? So kind of an interesting week. All right. Thank you all so much. I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.